Good morning to you, wherever you are in the world today, or whatever time it is for you today, whether you're watching on the YouTube, on Instagram, or listening on the podcast. Welcome. Welcome to the SitRep for today, which is the 8th of September, 2022. This year is rushing along, whizzing by, and still a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, as you can see, if you're watching on any of the visual medias, I'm not in my office. I'm traveling. Well, not traveling. I'm at work. And so this will be, hopefully, a faster one and an earlier one today. But let's try and smash through it. Lots of stuff going on in the last 48 hours. So I'll just crack into it. First off, in the kind of region, Southeast Asia, Philippines. What's been happening over there? Sugar and salt shortage. They've been suffering from a little bit of a sugar and salt shortage over in the Philippines and in this general area, but Philippines in particular. And this comes out from some of their top soft drink makers. So maybe not a bad thing that they can't get access to this stuff. But what it is highlighting here is Philippines, like many countries in the world, are a net importer of a lot of their very important food products. So this is two of them, and there's another story that comes out of this. Just to show you though that this one's highlighted by, at the moment, I don't know, Coke, not Coke, but whatever their local version of soft drink is over there. They're complaining. They're saying, hey, we can't get access to these things. This is really bad for us. We don't know where this is going to go as a business. Well, the other side of this, that's just the canary in the coal mine, I guess, for Philippines, saying like, hey, we can't make soft drink, because when you start to look at what they actually import, they buy sugar, salt, garlic. They get things like onions, and onions is another one that coming out of fast food producers in Philippines are saying, hey, we can't get onions and salt. So again, these things are the surface level sort of stuff. But as I said, they can't get salt, they can't get sugar, they can't get onions, they can't get garlic. They also are a net importer of things like rice, wheat, corn, soybean meal. All these sorts of things are massive staples. And so, when you start to look at this and predict what effects this could have, the salt and sugar thing is like, yeah, that's bad, but it's not the end of the world. Can you live without sugar and salt? You can't live without electrolytes, and that's the two main constituents of electrolytes. But that's just, like I said, the canary in the coal mine. This food crisis is going to start hitting countries really, really bad. Philippines is, I would put Philippines more into the category of a developed country, more akin, like closer to the Western world, very strong ties to Australia, very strong ties to the US. And so when we're starting to see this sort of stuff coming out of countries like this, this should be not just warning bells, but warning alarms for everyone of what is actually happening. As if we needed any more warning that our food system is in crisis right now. Here's the really important thing. This was a story I found afterwards. This was actually posted up by Ice Age Farmer, and he very neatly posted both of them underneath each other. So you can see the link here. Philippines government plans to confiscate sugar and onions. This is the sort of thing that concerns me. And this is what we've been seeing, that the kind of socialist leanings of governments gets exacerbated when emergencies are happening. So we're seeing it built around the climate emergency. We're seeing it built around energy, and we're seeing it now built around the food crisis as well. Governments will continue to grab more power. Oh, and obviously we just saw it with COVID. Governments will continue to grab more power. They will use this as yet another excuse for them to like go, well, we are needed here, which is, in my opinion, the exact opposite. The more emergency that's happening, the less government we need. We need them to get out of our way and for human beings to be able to do what we do. And I've talked about this in the past and I'll talk about it again. During the bushfires in my area in 2019, 2020, it was not government that came and helped us. It was us. We did what we had to do in order to get the job done, in order to survive, really, in order to protect people's homes, in order to protect people. That's what we did. It had nothing to do with government. It had to do with organizations that were community-based, and that's what we need to start leaning into. Anytime that I see the government starting to jump in and go like, oh, there's going to be a shortage of sugar, we better take the sugar. You guys obviously can't look after sugar yourselves. We're going to take it. No, this whole thing was created by governments. This whole thing was created by policy level. This whole thing was created by wars and then sanctions built around those wars. This has nothing to do with government helping us out. This like that's the exact opposite thing of what we need right now. So just be warned and start to look at this. That this will start happening more and more, and this will start happening more and more in our countries, in Western countries, in Australia, where these sort of socialist, or really, as my perspective on it is hidden communist viewpoints that the government holds. And I always look at the word communism. People, you can look at it from a whole heap of different angles, but when I'm talking about government level communism, that is something that promotes more power within government. So it makes sense. It is a natural leaning for governments to lean towards that. They're always going to want more power. I don't know a government on earth that's voluntarily going, hey, look, we're backpedaling. We're trying to give you guys more power. We're just here in case of absolute emergency. We're here to organize higher level national stuff. That's it. You guys take care of yourselves. Is there a government out there that does that? Probably not. Speaking about governments being overthrown, Pakistan. So Imran Khan has come out. For those who don't know the situation in Pakistan, just a quick catch up on this. Imran Khan was in power. He got overthrown, pushed out, legitimately, illegitimately, depends on who you're asking. But anyway, he's out of power. They tried to arrest him on charges of him being now a terrorist. That caused a huge swell of opposition from people who are his supporters. So he's come out and done a huge speech. And the summation of that speech is revolution is coming. Again, these are trends that I'm watching in the world. We're going to see increased political violence. We're going to see increased political turmoil throughout the world as everything's unfolding, everything's happening at the moment. We're in a time of change. Is probably the nicest way to put it. Quote, my nation has woken up. Now there is no change. Revolution is coming. So he's not saying, hey, we're changing now. Now it's beyond change. It's actually revolution. It's destruction. It's burning. And it's the opposite, uprising. Interesting stuff. Also on this, I saw that YouTube's being blocked in Pakistan at the moment. So people can't access this speech. So if that is true, and either the country has the ability to block YouTube, or YouTube is on the side of the current ruling power in Pakistan. So read from that what you will. India, jumping over to India now. India dashes the US hopes on oil price cap. So the US has been trying to put this oil price cap on the world, but particularly on Russia, saying, well, okay, this is a signal to me. If you just look at it from the outside perspective, you'd be like, well, why do you need to put a cap on Russian oil? Aren't your sanctions working? It's US basically coming out and saying, all right, the sanctions aren't working, but we can't pull the sanctions down. We cannot pull these sanctions down because we've got so much pride or faith in it resting in them. So we're going to try other measures. So they're trying to put this cap on. India's just come out and said, no, we're not enforcing a cap on Russian oil because we're buying Russian oil. Why would we do that? We need that oil. And they basically said, we will buy from Russia. We'll buy from wherever. And I've said this a million times. Why would a country not? If somebody has cheap oil or accessible oil, Why wouldn't a country buy it right now? It wouldn't make sense, especially when you look at what's happening in Europe. And that's going to be the focus of what I'm talking about today, because so much news is coming out of Europe. And I'll say it again. I almost can't access information from other parts of the world. I mean, I can, obviously. There's heaps of information out there. But if you look at a lot of the main sources and you look at some of the alternative sources, the vast majority, I would say this morning, 70% of the news coming out is from Europe. And that's, I'm probably being conservative here. 70% of the news coming out of Europe. It's like, is anything happening in Africa? What about South America? Anything happening there? Middle East, maybe? Bam, Europe. That's where the news cycle is firmly stuck at the moment. But what are we seeing in Europe? We're seeing these horrific energy crises, and they are right now, I think they've just gone past the line of demarcation. That's why so much news is coming out about it at the moment. They just went past that line where they've realized, ooh, we fucked up. Like, what we're watching right now is the European version of the beginning of the Hangover movie, where Bradley Cooper's on the phone. He's like, yeah, we fucked up. That's Europe right now. They're in the desert and they just realized it. They're like, no, we've come too far. And I don't think Europe knows what to do. To be honest, I don't think Europe has a solid answer. All right, let's start not necessarily on the energy crisis, but we'll start over right up against the border of Russia with Latvia. So this was sent to me by my main source through the Instagrams, who is somebody who's over in the area. So they've got a pretty good finger on the pulse. Latvia's just initiated mandatory military service. That's going to be phased in. That's for men aged 18 to 27, or as we would call them, fighting age males. We being ex-military security-minded people. And also on a voluntary basis for women starting in 2028. So mandatory for men, but voluntary for women. That's equality for you. On a serious note, I am of the opinion that if women want to go fight in a war, they can, but I don't think it's the space for women to go into, and I don't think it's a sexist thing. I think women are actually just much more valuable than men from a species standpoint. That's just my take on it. And feel free to argue with me if you want, but I can't produce a child. That's the end of the story. I can't. I can help in it, but I can't grow it. So that, to me, makes women much more important in the world. And so why you would throw them into a war is beyond me. But that's what Latvia is doing, and not just Latvia. So they're going to start phasing this in from 2023 to 2027. So they are looking at long-term now. That's, admission that they're looking into some long-term stuff now. Ukraine is also doing it. I'll just say this as well. If Latvia is doing it, I can almost guarantee that you will probably see something similar coming out of Lithuania and Estonia as they start to drag this in. And it really wouldn't surprise me if we start to see maybe Finland, Poland, maybe even Sweden. But man, mark my words right now, if we see Sweden do this, that's the big signal. That's the big signal. If we saw Sweden do this, Sweden's a mixed country, right? But from the outside, Sweden's pretty left-leaning. Sweden's pretty liberal in what they do. So for Sweden to start, if they were to start doing it, marking that they're going to, start bringing in men into the army, that would be a pretty big switch around. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility. It's something they've done before. But it would be a marker to me. It's one of those things that I'm looking out for, where I'd be like, okay, this is World War III. Like that's what actually is happening here. So Ukraine requiring women to register if they've got a particular set of skills. So there's 14 different specialities that they were looking for. It was, all sort of not necessarily war fighting sort of things, but all the logistics, all the background sort of stuff that goes into the army. A lot of people think if you join the army, then you're fighting a war. It's actually not true. Like the people that join the army or military, of those who actually go and have the ability to fight a war, like really, I mean, everyone can technically pick up a gun and shoot, but there's a very, very small amount of people that are actually trained to warfight. And of those, there's a very, very small amount who actually go into war. And of those, there's a very small amount who actually see battle. At least that's the way within the Australian Army. And you would say that there would be in the order of 10 to 15 human beings behind putting one into a battle, into a fighting position. That's the kind of structure that you usually have with the military. It's not you join and you're fighting. That's not generally the way it goes. So just if you're reading that and you're going like, holy shit, they're getting women to fight on the front lines, and that's not actually how it happens. All right. Let's jump over to the UK now. A leaked paper shows UK cops are preparing for the greater civil unrest this winter, and I would imagine most of Europe should be doing this because there will be civil unrest because this energy crisis is going to be bad, and I don't think they can get out of it at this stage. I don't think there's any way to get out of it. Italy has broken ranks with the EU, and if you've ever heard me talk about the EU before, the disunited nations, the European ununion, like we kind of have this idea that Europe is this solid, homogenized front, and it's not. It's anything but. It is a fractured, multilingual, multi-thought space where you've got independent countries who are doing their own thing and often doing their own thing within their own country too. But Italy has for quite some time now been really against a lot of these sanctions. They've been dragging their toes with these sanctions. They've been saying, look, I don't think we should do this. They've been buying Russian goods despite sanctions. They've really broken ranks now and said, look, we need to end the energy sanctions against Russia because Italy is already on their knees. And a number of other countries, I think, will start coming out and saying this sort of stuff because there are a lot of them that are in this position. This was another one that was actually sent to me by my source, and I did see it in a number of other places too. So this is starting to cycle around, and people are starting to see this news here. That this is actually from Reuters. European banks are preparing for power outages now. So they're looking forward and they're going, okay, yeah, we're going to have power outages. So let's get backup generators. Let's have systems. Let's start getting other people to test their systems. What's their plans for this sort of stuff? They're looking at, okay, we could have blackouts that last hours every couple of days, every week or so. We could have blackouts that last a couple of days. What they're not specifically looking at is what happens if the power does not come on for 4, 5, 6 days. And I'll tell you what happens. Utter fucking catastrophe happens. Like that is like that's Mad Max. That's Walking Dead. That's World War Z. That's what you'd see. You'd see utter chaos in the streets if the power didn't come on. And I would suggest 3 days, maybe even 2, thinking about our modern society. But this is talking about the banking system. This is talking about businesses. That's one of the effects we don't think about. We often think about that sort of stuff that I was talking about, the Hollywood movie effect, the human being effect, the individual effect. But what happens to businesses? What happens to the banking system? So one thing that really shone out from me from a prepper perspective for this one, I was like, how much cash do you have on hand? I had this the other day. I had to pay someone cash for something. And I was like, yeah, I've got heaps of cash. And I whipped open my wallet and I actually had Swedish crowns or kronas in there, Swedish money from when I was in Sweden. And I was like, yeah, I've got plenty of money. Damn it. I can't pay you in this. This is not Aussie dollaroos. But it was just that little wake up call, this sort of stuff, this preparedness stuff, little wake up call for everyone. You can get caught out. Anyone can get caught out at any time. Have some cash on hand. Have some cash squirreled away somewhere. If the power goes out, can you pay for fuel? Can you pay your bills? Can you pay for food? Can you pay for water if you needed it? So think about that. What else do we have? It's a lot. Sorry, I had a few stories about that European plan for their power outages. But I mean, they're factoring it in now. That's one of the big things as well. They're factoring in that they will have less power to deal with, that they will have blackouts. So as places like California already and other parts of the US, they're factoring this in. So this is coming down the pipeline. Energy, again, is a big thing. Food, water, shelter, energy is another big thing that we need to prepare for. So start thinking about that. I feel pretty sorted myself, but I still look at things. I'm like, I can see some sales on like lithium batteries, on some deep cycle batteries, on solar panel. I just bought a new solar panel blanket. Like always updating this sort of stuff. This is going to be a big thing. All right, let's jump over. I skipped over one here, had it in the wrong place, but I'll go back to this. This is actually in Syria. US expands with new base in Syria, in the northeast of Syria, which, if you've heard me talk about this, it's a place that I have been to and know. It's also a place that I know is really oil rich, and that's why it's very contested, usually for other reasons. People are like, no, we own this place, and oh no, these people are terrorists, and oh no, we need to secure this area. But oil is literally leaking out of the ground there. I drove through it and I said, why is it all shiny here and it smells? And people are like, oh, that's oil. I'm like an oil spill? And they're like, no, it just comes up out of the ground. It's leaking out of the ground there. So surprise, surprise, the US rocks up. Hello, we're here to help you. Here's some democracy and freedom. By the way, we need all this. So they have just put a new base in one of the most oil and gas-rich provinces in Syria, securing energy. Wars are happening, or have been happening, if you haven't been following the news for the past 25 years, over this stuff, this black stuff that comes out of the ground. So watch that space. BRICS, I'll just quickly talk about BRICS again, becoming stronger. Here's a little report coming from Russian propaganda. Surprise, surprise, talking about BRICS getting stronger. But what we're also seeing is a shifting in the BRICS from being an economic tie to they're starting to really make military ties now in this BRICS alliance. So I think it's probably the next huge power, like world power, somewhere in that BRICS alliance. So just back onto energy in Europe again, these two stories came up and they were from different sources, and I just happened to look at both of them one after the other, and I just found it really amusing. It's about Italy, it's about Europe. Italy turns to candles amid massive energy price hike. So energy's gone up anywhere from 500 to 1,000% wherever you are in Italy. So some businesses are turning to candles, turning the lights off, going to candles. Juxtapose this with this one. On the Switzerland border, the CERN Hadron Collider, Large Hadron Collider, which everyone is up in arms about for different reasons, but it uses a astronomically large amount of energy, 200 megawatts of energy, of electricity during its peak operations. But it's not something they just flick on and off. It has to be operating all the time, and then they ramp it up for experiments. CERN may, listen to the wording here, may shut down Large Hadron Collider and other particle accelerators they've got due to the energy crisis. Now, may is in there, and I read another story on this from another source that actually said, because I was like, whoa, they'll shut it down. That's a pretty big deal. Because for them to turn it back on is a pretty big deal. They're not actually looking at shutting it down. They're looking at cycling it down so that it goes into like a standby mode. So the energy is still going in there. It's just not up to the magnitude of energy that they're using. And I was like, right. So people are using candles in Italy at the moment. Businesses are going bankrupt wholesale. You're staring down a winter where people are going to either freeze to death or starve to death, or maybe a combination of both. And you're just going to go down a little bit from the 200 megawatts of electricity that you're using over there in that CERN Large Hadron Collider. I don't know what to say. I put these two stories together, and you can just see the world, writ large right there. That should tell you everything you need to know about the priorities of our world right now, the idiocy that we're dealing with. All right, more on energy, but this one on the US, and I'll just finish off with this one. Amazon came out a few years ago and said, hey, we're going to go fully zero emission. And so they, following actually in the footsteps of Walmart, they planted solar panels all over their buildings, every building that they had, and had solar powered farm, solar panel farms. Famously, Walmart actually led the way in this and started putting solar panels on all their buildings, and they did it to reduce their costs, their running costs. Whether it actually did that or not in the long run, I'm not sure. But anyway, Amazon did it as well, and didn't mention anything about what cost it would save them, just very much championed the fact that they were going to zero emissions by 2040. They're leading the way forward. However, allegedly, I haven't bought anything from Amazon from their actual branded stuff, and they've got a sub-brand called Amazon Basics, which has been kind of infamously shit in its quality. Well, maybe they were getting Amazon Basics to build these solar panels as well, because they started setting on fire, which is obviously a bit of a hazard when they're on top of a building. So these fires are not good. That's obviously threatening some employees' safety. So without it telling anyone, they shut them down. They shut them down as in they shut all of them down. Like, they were just like, this is too much of a risk. Cut the panels. And so they've got all these panels sitting on roofs all throughout the country, on every facility, and allegedly none of them are actually drawing energy into any sort of into the grid or into any battery system. They're just sitting there looking pretty. Another win, yet another win for the green technologies. Again, I just say this: I'm very pro green technologies. I'm very pro sustainable energy harnessing. However, I think with the technologies we've got at scales that we're looking at, I don't believe that we can do it right now. We need other options right now. We need to be more canny, more smart about this, and not just dreamy-eyed and looking and going like, yes, I can envisage a future where we're all perfect and the only emissions are unicorn farts and Skittles rain from the sky and everybody's happy. Anytime there's any sort of utopian future being talked about, I always go, I don't know. I need to investigate this a bit more, because that really puts me off. The world doesn't work that way. There's always costs. And if you think there's something that doesn't have a cost, I'm like, look harder. We need to look harder. There's always something that is going to cost us, and we need to actually just open our eyes to those costs and go, what costs are we willing to take on? And let's decide that as a human race and move forward. So yeah, anyway, that's interesting coming out of the US, and it's obviously going to add in. I mean, A, spontaneous fires again. It's like, what else is burning today? And B, another threat to their energy sector over there, which is obviously not good. Like, I would really like all this sort of stuff to work. I would really love for it, but and C, another corporation being sneaky and not telling us, because they didn't report any of this. They just shut them down and then said, no, we're still working towards zero emissions. That's still happening. That's the thing. Well, you guys do it. Actually, just kill all your cows, because those cow farts are what's killing us mainly. And you guys traveling around on planes. Yeah, anyway, I must get on my private jet. Ta-ta. Fun times. All right, so that's the world as I see it today. That's the situation report of what we're looking at. So a lot of energy stuff today, some food security sort of stuff, and be careful. One of the things that I led off with today was the government in Philippines shutting down, like grabbing some of their food, going, oh, that's in short supply. We'll take care of that. This is one of the things that I would like to point out to people, that if you think that you can rely on your government to help you out in the hard times, my experience tells me different. You can go ahead and do it if you want. If you want to put all your reliance, your faith, your life in their hands, feel free to do so. That's up to you. Me personally, I'm not going to. And I would encourage others not to either. I would encourage you to be more self-reliant and to take your own survival situation into your sphere of influence, into your control as much as you possibly can. Retain agency over your own life for as long as possible. That's little tidbit that I like to teach people when I'm teaching courses. All right, that's it for today, gang. Thank you very much for joining me as always. I really appreciate it. As always, again, if you have any questions or anything that you want to fire through to me, please feel free to do that. Always try and get back to them. I know if you're on YouTube right now and you're going, you haven't answered my last question. I know there's a whole heap of comments in there that I haven't got around to yet. I'll get there. All right, I've got to go do some of that work stuff. So stay safe out there. Keep planning, keep prepping, keep yourself more prepared for the coming times that are barreling down at us at the moment. But don't freak out. There's no need to freak out. Just keep taking those steps. Every day is one step at a time towards a life that is more self-sustainable, that is more self-reliant. That's all we have to do. That's all we have to concentrate on, and just keep coming together. Until next time, my friends, stay safe out there, and Semper Paratus.